All right. Welcome to the first recording of the No Jerry podcast. I'm your host, Ski. I'm joined by my co host, E Money. And basically, No Jerry is a weekly podcast made by Americans for Americans, and we focus on what matters to you. As you chase the American dream, it's hard to keep up with the day in, day out, all the info, all the news. So make sure to join our community on X, YouTube, Kick, Twitch, and TikTok. And that's right, TikTok's not going nowhere. It's staying forever. We don't know. In today's episode, we're basically going to be covering everything from the confirmation hearings and Trump's inauguration, and why Trump's meme coins are actually taking the crypto world by storm. Plus, we'll talk about the latest in the LA wildfires, the mysterious drones in New Jersey, even though they're trying to get us to forget about those. We're going to bring them back up. And some seriously cool tech that's hitting the market this year. So stick around. It's going to be a ride. Now, this first segment, we're going to go ahead and dive in. It's January 20th, first official day of the podcast, first official day of Trump's presidency. Go ahead, E-Money, go ahead and kick it off. A little bit of notes you got on the inauguration day.
All right, well, what's up? No Jerry, here to make it happen. So we got the inauguration day got moved inside. Crazy. What a way for them to dodge the weather.
Or bullets.
More importantly, what does Trump's first day back look like? Well, he's already got multiple things moving in motion here. Amazingly, somehow brought TikTok back after just a few hours. Love to see it.
Yeah, that's crazy about that is how it was just like 48 hours ago. Everybody's freaking out. Where's it going? And then as of today, it's back. It was a whole ploy from the get.
Oh, 100%. It almost, I don't know. Some might say it's a little bit crazy, but we'll take it. Rather have it than not. So he said a lot of good things in his inauguration speech today. From everything from, lost it. Hold on, I'm lost in the notes. Give me a second here.
Yeah, good. We can edit this all out.
So,
I think, go ahead.
He's talked about from stopping the government censorship to ending the government using race and gender as a divide, which we love to see. Only two genders will now be recognized by the government, what it should have been, if you ask me.
Man, how crazy. Do you think in our lifetimes that would be a talking point for the presidential inauguration?
No, you would think that that's something that would be common sense because to most of us it is, but
hey, that's why we're here, though. We surround ourselves by like-minded people.
To each their own, I guess. But he's also going to be reinstating government members and military members who lost their jobs for not getting the COVID vaccine with back pay.
Yeah, that's a couple years of back pay there.
Dude, that's huge. To somebody that lost their job then, that could be huge.
Yeah, we've seen it in our everyday lives. My family members, there's family members in the medical field, there's people in the military, and, they were forced to get the vaccine, even though they were kind of iffy on it. I have me in the camp where I'm like, don't get it. Some of them didn't even have a choice. And now, years later, there's a lot of info coming out that was kind of held back then. And like you said, being able to end the government censorship and the identity politics, I think that's the biggest thing other than the border and inflation that a lot of Americans wanted to deal with, because it was when we grew up and it was about politics, it really was about policy. Why are we going to Afghanistan? Why are we doing food stamps? Why are we doing Obamacare? Like, it was genuine stuff that was actually discussed, where now we're talking about stuff that nobody can change and going back. And it's not even that they can change it, but we're just harping on it, and it's over and it's over and it's over again. And we just want to get back to the substance of the conversation.
Like you said, we need to get back to where politics are actually policies. We're talking about things that are going to help the everyday American, that are going to change, you know, certain situations where people are living right now, circumstances that, you know, our veterans and just other Americans simply shouldn't be in, that could have easily been avoided if just a little bit of the right, um, government push was given here. A lot of the issues that we're currently dealing with could have been easily avoided.
Yeah, and like you said, with the whole policy shift, is you have to think about, like, when people look back at all these policies, um, people don't remember them all. They tend to only remember a select few. And with Biden, it's really hard to find the select few because there's just so many bad ones. And, just to tote into that, just for today, I mean, Biden with the last second buzzer beater with the pardons that he issued
The
today.
pardons out the wazoo.
Yeah, and I mean, just the buzzer beater. Right before he shows up for the inauguration, he pardons his family. He pardons the January 6th committee. He also pardons, what was the one thing I'm missing here? Um,
Brother,
oh,
he already,
Anthony Fauci, which is the biggest pardon of it all.
it,
If a lot of people ever read RFK Jr.'s book, it really exposed it, and people talked about it on Rogan and other podcasts, but talking about Fauci and the corruption he's been involved in throughout his whole career. And for Biden to say that he's in part of saving lives, it's a joke. It's a complete joke. And what was it? Someone said, let me pull it up here, and it stuck with me when I read it. It basically said if they needed to be pardoned, it implies that those people were in fact guilty. Um, pardons
100%.
pardons should technically only work if someone is formally charged with a crime. Yet there are preemptively pardoning uncharged people. How curious!
Yeah, it's quite strange. It makes you wonder. I
And I
mean,
mean,
don't
and
want to be
this
that guy, but
right, and this all kicked off with him pardoning his son.
right, which we all knew how sticky that whole situation was, and that was
Right.
what, 4 years ago now, basically.
Well, no, they just pardoned his son, but he had been saying for the past 4 years that he would never pardon his son because he would leave it to the justice system to handle it. And everybody was like, no, he's not going to do it. He's not like Trump. He's not going to issue all these pardons. Here
Right.
we are. Here we are.
Here we
And
are.
it's one of those things where it's just another example of hypocrisy coming from the left. Oh, we don't want Trump to weaponize the DOJ. What have you been doing the last 4 years? You've been weaponizing the DOJ. And I mean, just as my personal viewpoint of it is the whole reason I got into politics was just the amount of info that was just swamped on us that was negative Trump and negative all the people that was speaking for the America First movement. So that's kind of what roped me into it when it comes to all the cases against him and all this other stuff where it's like, okay, all these cases they have on him, so many politicians in Congress and this, like all of them have the same amount of stuff. And even with the New York real estate charges, once he got found guilty on that, all the real estate investors in New York was like, hold up, if you're willing to do that to him, I'm doing the same thing, and I thought it was legal. So I'm getting up out of New York because I'll take my business elsewhere. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, talking about the insurance companies with the wildfires and how they decided to take their business elsewhere because of the negligence of the government ran in California and how they've handled their funding, taxpayer funding, and also just the policies in place to kind of make sure that those wildfires aren't as bad as they are to this moment still going on.
100%. And just to wrap us
Um,
back into this inauguration deal, he spoke about multiple other things, even though it was just a little 30-minute speech. I mean, he touched base on a lot of topics that people want to know about and what he planned
yeah,
on doing with, and he touched a lot of those topics today in just that 30-minute speech. I mean, even him putting an end to the EV mandate is huge in the automotive industry. Huge.
I agree 100%.
I mean, and then going back to, drilling on our soil. I mean, that's something we should have never stopped doing. We felt the repercussions of them putting an end to the exporting of oil from here, I mean, almost instantly, it seemed. So that's something that we absolutely need to get brought back. I mean, as soon as possible. That's not something that's going to be get done quickly, but I mean, something that's definitely going to help us out in the long run and in the short.
Yeah, and I mean, push an EV as hard as they do, knowing that the EV market runs through China in itself is kind of like fishy. Not that we shouldn't go towards EV, but the way we've been going about it is just not the correct way, especially
No,
when we can have all these extra resources that are on our own land when it comes to drilling, as well as like you said, just getting us back to producing our own stuff and like being that producer for other countries.
right.
And you know, go ahead.
We want to play the big brother role in about every situation that's going on, but how much can you really be the big brother if we're exporting nothing? The only thing
Right.
that the other countries look for us now is a helping military hand or a bunch of consumers that's just going to buy their products, and that's not what we are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, shoot, you see how big Timo's gotten.
Oh,
And
dude,
shoot,
it's
dude,
insane.
and there's no talks about shutting down Timu. So
No,
that's got to be a question too, which is a direct competitor with Amazon as well. So I'm interested to see how that looks, how that is goes forward, how it's looking going forward for the next 4 years. Um, yeah, man, I think the inauguration. I think today overall is just a big day because like there's been so many what ifs leading up to this day, and one of them
dude, we
almost
were
came true.
worried. Yeah, we were terrified to know if we were even going to get here. I mean, when we got through the election, we were like, okay, awesome, but this is just step one.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that
So, I
was the thing
mean,
too is two almost three assassination attempts. Um, and that was the thing too, is like even leading up to today's event is the CIA that was issued for today's event is a Biden administration ran CIA. So is that a reason why they moved it inside? I think it's part of it. I think the weather is
definitely,
too. It's cold as shit, but
definitely, I guarantee plays into it. And you almost know that, I mean, with everything that's happened, got to have his own people out there as well. And they probably had some kind
oh
of
yeah,
say in them moving it in there.
yeah, and that was a big thing that PBD brought up was just like you're going to have to pay with your own money a private security agency, and just go through those extra guidelines because I mean, what's more valuable than your life? And Trump kind of plays with that sometimes. Like even after the shooting, the first shooting, they started putting those glass walls around him. And then what was
Right.
it? A woman passed out in front of him, and he leaves the glass walls to get her some water, to get her some help.
That's our
Um,
president, buddy.
that is our president. That is our fucking president, man. And the biggest thing is, um, like, I think kind of like what everybody has voiced in that moment. Like, it really showed who he was. Because like any of us get shot, I don't know about you, I'm shitting my pants.
Oh,
I'm running.
100%.
I don't get. If I'm with my family, I'm gonna take them with me, but I'm gonna be shitting my pants corralling them. And
100%.
to have the nerve to say, "Where's my shoes?" I'm about to stand up, fight, fight, fight. And he probably said, "Where's my shoes?" Because he probably got some holes in them socks. If he's like any of us,
Right.
probably got one or two of those holes in there. But yeah, man, I think it was just representative of the American people. And when, like, I don't think people who've never left this country or even like consider world economics and all the stuff that's happening around the world. Like it was more than just the American people who wanted Trump in. Like he is the leader of the free world now, and we finally got to this point where, like I said, there was planned terrorist attacks that got shut down that were planned for New Year's Eve, which a couple of them were played out. There was a couple for Inauguration Day. There was a couple that was supposed to happen on Election Day that got shut down. So I don't think the attempts will stop, unfortunately. I think the more changes he makes, the more attempts there are going to be, especially if he really does live up to draining the swamp. I think, like I've told you before, and I try to tell a lot of people, is it's way bigger than red and blue. It's way bigger than Democrat and Republican. This is globalist versus nationalists, and the globalist is the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and all these guys are not. I mean, there are a few women up there, but it's these old white men who are out here just turning around and trying to basically degrade our country from the inside out So then when you take down the leader of the free world, then it's free game. You can implement whatever you want because the citizens will be tired of the bullshit.
Right.
And I think, just to get back on topic here, with this inauguration, it was a big day for Americans to kind of just step forward. I mean, even after the election, it was like a weight was lifted off the shoulders. And it wasn't that Trump is perfect. It isn't that Trump is going to, do everything that we want him to do in the last 4 years he has, but it's a step in the right direction. And I truly believe if Kamala did win, it was going to be 10 steps in the wrong direction that might not have been able to come back because they would have weaponized the DOJ like they had been doing. And everything they're toting that Trump is going to do, they would have done. I do believe that to my core, and that's why I casted my vote the way I did.
Yeah,
Um,
if Trump was honestly the only candidate really that was going to turn things around. I mean, with Kamala, because she was honestly basically the only other candidate, nothing would have changed. The same things that got pushed the last 4 years would have got pushed even more. Our country would have got dug deeper and deeper into these holes that we're getting in with other countries. We would have got further and further out of foreign affairs, and everything would have been, pretty much stacked against us as a people. As
yeah,
unfortunate and crazy as that is, I mean, that's pretty much the direction that we were going 100%.
yeah, and I think it's a reflection of the last 4 years because a lot of Democrats want to separate the Democratic Party from the Biden administration. Are like, well, he's bad. We don't want him. But that isn't representative of who we are. It's like that's everything you were and then some. And when you talk about like just the failures that Biden did, like I went on the record saying that he's the worst president since Carter, and I think he's worse than President Carter, who just now passed away, R.I.P. And with that, it's just the Afghanistan withdrawal, right? It's the record inflation. It's just the I mean, when you look at him, he doesn't look like a leader. He doesn't look like the part. And should that matter? No, it really shouldn't. But to an extent, it should because you're representing us as Americans, rich and poor. And that's the beautiful thing about this country. And I heard, Kash Patel, who we'll talk about in a little bit, one of the quotes he said was, the beautiful thing about our country is we're the only country that can hold our high ranking officials accountable, and have systems in place
Exactly.
to hold them accountable, where a lot of countries don't even sniff that.
That's very true, but isn't it crazy how it seems that somehow pardons end up protecting most of these people that need to get the most brash of all this outcome? It seems like they're all getting protected out on the court of pardons at this point.
Yeah, and I thought about that today too when he issued those pardons, especially when it came to Fauci, because I think Fauci has some stuff to answer to. But they were not pardoned in the court of public opinion, and I think that's important too, because the investigations aren't going to stop. I think Kash Patel is
No.
going to come in, lead the FBI. I think they're going to blow the lid off of everything, and I mean that's what we hope, right? That's what we hope is that, even if they blow off the lid of 25-50% of it, it's more than we've got in our lifetimes. And
Right.
that's the thing is, with seeing these administrations, I mean, I grew up during the Bush administration and I was in sixth grade during the 2008 election. And it was big because seeing like all of these people want change and want change. And that was the motto, change, change, change. And like, that was it. That was the chant. Like, we're going to be different. Like all these warmongers, like, we're not going to go back to that. And it was literally nothing changed.
And
Nothing changed. And I,
isn't it wild that Kamala pretty much had the same campaign with different words?
yeah, yeah. And I think that also, what a lot of, people we followed talked about was like these celebrity endorsements, all this stuff, that's dead. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything to anybody anymore. I don't
No.
care what Beyonce thinks. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me because she's not living my everyday life. She's not paying the bills I have to pay.
Right.
And especially, and it's not just bills. We all got bills to pay, but I mean the bills that keep going up, right? I mean, I
Right.
want bills that stay the same or go down. And it seems
Right.
like all of our bills are going up. And the most expensive one is energy and food
And
by
I
far,
mean, if
and
at
living.
least if it ain't staying the same or going down, we need to be going in the right direction. And
Yeah.
economically, that this country's only went in worse and worse directions the last 4 years.
100%. Now, I
I
do
mean,
think we got. Go ahead.
things have only gotten harder and harder, and I mean, it's not going to instantly get better, but I believe, within a year to 2 years, we'll start really seeing the benefits of the tariffs and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything.
And I think, the negative downsides of all the stuff Trump's going to do is like, I would rather it happen with the hope of getting towards, because it possibly would have happened regardless who was president. But
Right.
it's like, if we're going to go into the shit show, who do I want to lead us out of it? Right? Do I want a woman who's never handled a business in her life, which is what this is what the American economy is. It's the biggest business in the world.
100%. And people love to sit there and say things like that, like, oh, they got to be in politics, they got to this and that. Okay, but we really need somebody who is economically well rounded and knows how the system works from top to bottom, and is going to work it in the best favor for our country, not just themselves, for our country. Somebody whose pockets are already deep enough to where we're not worried about them being bought out, or them, taking a bribe to do this or that. Like, that's none of that's happening under Trump. I mean, it's been said multiple times, people try to bribe him time and time again over the years, and he doesn't go for none of that.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and people will shit on his marketing skills, and I'll say it. I'll die on this hill. He's the greatest marketer of our time, and it's by far just what he can do with his speaking, but then also just his merchandise and everything else. And I don't want to seem like I'm tooting his horn, but it kind of plays into a part when he has these shoes and these coins and these cards and all this other stuff. It's no different. I think the biggest thing that I thought about was he's just doing what every other politician does, except he's doing it in our face. These other politicians are behind the scenes, and they're doing it with our lives. Oh, okay. Some jackasses want to go buy a coin that has a good chance of not being worth a damn. Well, they knew what they were signing up for when they bought that coin.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's a lot different than selling energy infrastructure to another country to make you some money, or different inside secrets. Like, that's treason. That's 100% treason. What he's doing is not
Right.
treason.
Or funding other countries just to end up with that money somehow back in your bank account. Like,
Yeah.
the math's got to math somewhere,
And
and it
that's and
hasn't.
that's why I think Biden pardoned his whole family. And I think because all the rumors of his ties to Ukraine, and I believe there's ties to China somewhere in there. Hopefully, with time investigations and information, will bring that to light. But a big thing that we were talking about too was what was different with this election. Because I mean, going into the election, we thought, man, it's close. We don't, I pray he wins, but man, it is close. And that's simply because all the news, all the media, everybody, big talking heads on Twitter, all the big heads were talking about, oh, this is anybody's race. It wasn't. It never was. It was clear as
No,
day from day
no.
one that people were tired of the same old shit. And it's just like watching the news. It's the same fear porn that they sit there and they try to shove in our face.
Right,
And
and it's just in the bold-faced lies, bro. I mean, the accent changes, bro. Like,
oh,
and like it
yeah.
what they weren't trying to hide it. They were not even trying
No,
to. It was just right in our face. Like, they thought we are that stupid
they
that
do
we were just gonna.
100%. And
Nobody's
I'm
gonna
not
pick up
saying,
on that.
yeah, I'm not saying Republicans are innocent either, but I think that it's either Democrats are right and they're terrible at hiding it, or the Republicans are wrong and they're the best at hiding it. Which I don't think that's the case, because I think we're in the age of information. Shit will come out and there's no hiding from it. And it's just like
Right.
the side on the left is just all the money going to media outlets, all the money going to these big talking heads on these news outlets. And it trickles down over to Disney, to ESPN. And all
I
these
mean,
sources are all
bro.
left wing.
I mean, like, even when it came down to the debates, the scripts,
Oh my God.
the
The lighting,
the
the color,
bro, like the baiting. I mean, everything. Like,
the fact checking, the selective fact checking.
the selective fact checking. I mean, that's something that we need to agree to leave in 2024, like everywhere on every platform. Fact checking is in the dust. If you're
Yeah,
not
I'm
smart
pro
enough to
community
check your own,
notes.
right? If you're not smart enough to fact check your own information, then I mean, that's on you, bud.
Yeah, and it's just like that's the thing about censorship is like, oh, you're going to tell me it's not allowed, but who are you? And what's your qualifications to tell me it's not allowed? What are your biases, right? Because that
Right,
matters.
you're a high ranking person at Meta, like so you can say what we can and can't say, what is and is not right. Like,
Right. And
come
is
on
do
now,
you have biases? Everybody's got
right?
biases. Everybody.
Like
And
you
that's a
said,
big thing.
who are you? When those websites fact check you, it's not like you get a thing at the end of the fact check that says who did it, where you can look at their profile and see what they think about
Nope.
things. It doesn't work
Just
like
who they
that,
work for, just who they work for, or who they're
right?
represented by. And that's the big thing is like one of our talking points here is like what changed with this election. And it was the swing states. I mean, just a clean sweep of the swing states, all seven. And that was one of the things where like, oh, people are like, well, if he just wins this swing state or he just wins this swing state, he'll win. It didn't matter. He won all
It
of them.
didn't matter. All
And
of them. And it wasn't, none of them were really close, bro.
no, no. And like I always, I was saying back then that, if he would have won the electoral and he didn't win the popular, there would have been a whole debate on if we need to ban the electoral college. And it
Oh,
would have been a whole thing.
100%.
But since he's the first one to win the popular vote like he did, I mean, it just left it up for no debate. That's why they're just grabbing for air because there's just nothing there. You
I
got,
mean, PPD said it, bro. It's like, it's got to be a clean sweep. For him to get in the office as
yeah,
smooth as possibly can be, it would have to be a
it's
clean sweep. And that's exactly what it was.
it's so funny because we were talking about you and I were talking about going into the election that and he said it before like it's like you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs like you not only do you have to beat
100%.
them you got to beat the refs like you got to be
Yep.
it's got to be too big to rig and that's what it was. And if it was close, I think there'd have been a little more foul play. And I think the big thing is too is Trump having his team in every swing state, just making sure everything's done by the book. He got
Yep.
lawyers, and not just just talking head political figure lawyers to make sure like okay we have some shit going on over here we need to investigate these people nope we're shutting this down and that I think was key, especially in the swing states because that's where they focused because that was they knew what they were going to win. But when you seen that picture after the election of all the counties within the state that voted red or blue, it was really astonishing to see in the blue states how many compared to 2020 were red, and even in California pre all of what's happened. People were already like, we're getting tired of this, and like I said, and I'll say it again, like Republicans aren't perfect, but you just look at Republican ran states versus Democratic
Right.
ran states, and you have Florida and New York, and then you have Florida and Texas. That's all you need to know right there. That's all you need to know. I mean, just look at those two states.
Dude, I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, this is something that you and I talked about frequently months leading up to it, bro. We seen, we knew the demographic of people that were voting for Kamala. I mean, we're out and about in the cities and the sticks all day, every day,
Yeah,
and we
and when you say
seen,
demographic, we're talking about white baby boomer ladies in the suburbs who never leave their
yeah,
house except to take their Yorkie out to take a dookie,
and I mean that's what we had,
or the ones with
and it,
blue hair.
yep, it was one of those two extremes and hardly no in betweens. The in between was the people that just don't like Trump.
Yeah, and like I think it was like the one side was so radical that it really turned people off to represent. Like people were scared to put a Trump sign in their yard because they were scared that they would come off as racist or come off as the Nazi or all this other stuff. And it's like, no, you represent who you think is best for the country, and nothing else
And
matters.
and bro, the more you think about it, I mean, like I told you, me and my old lady talked about it. I told her I wanted to put up a Trump sign. She's like, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. And I'm like, okay, but at the end of the day, I should be able to have one sign, and then everybody around me can have another one. There can be one other sign. I mean, at the end of the day, we should all be able to represent who we want without it ruffling any feathers.
Exactly.
I
Exactly. And
mean,
it's
because
not a select few. It's not a select few.
no, and it's like if somebody came to me, we were having a conversation about it, I'm not gonna, be upset if they don't have the same view as me. It is what it is. I mean, everybody, that's the beauty of our country.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
as soon as people start arguing about, because you have one opinion or another, I mean, that's just the slipperiest slope we could be on.
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing. Like if I ever came across someone who hated Trump, I'm like, okay, let's have a discussion about this. And I want you to leave out January 6th. I want you to leave out race, and I want you to leave out gender. And then we can have
Bro,
this debate.
January 6th is the crazy people. When I
That's the
say it's
number
the
one thing.
crazy, when I say it's the craziest thing, bro, what I mean by that is how crazy it is about people that think it's so crazy.
Yeah, people were legitimately on news sources saying it's worse than 9/11. That
Like,
floored me.
brother,
That floored
like they
me.
didn't, the White House didn't get burned down. Like,
Yeah.
what are we saying here?
And that's the biggest thing too, is like I always think about, and they still don't even talk about this, is when Tucker Carlson was still on Fox and he released the footage of the cameras inside the Capitol building. And it looked like just regular old people just taking pictures, getting escorted around. It looked like our grandmas were in there getting pictures next to the big old bald
Bro,
eagle.
and they'll never retract that, bro. They'll never go
No.
back on that
It's
statement
one of the
when,
few talking points that they have that they can harp on endlessly.
right, and it would seem after seeing the footage, bro, the government should have came out and been like, oh, well, so sorry, this was really blown out of proportion. It wasn't that bad, but no, they're still pushing the same crazy narrative.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say it's crazy, bro, but it's crazy. Like
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. A lot of people
like
feel that way. It's like, yeah, there's some bad stuff you could talk about that we can bring up with Trump, but the January 6th one saying that he's the one that incited it when he, like, I mean, we're not going clearly
bro,
talking about peaceful and all this sort of stuff. They're grasping air at that point.
right. And bro, if you ask me, bro, honestly, the Afghanistan pullout is worse than anything Trump's done. Just that one incident
Yeah.
alone
And
is
we
worse
never
than
hear about
anything
that.
Trump's done.
Never
No,
hear
bro,
about
and
that.
that was horrible.
Yeah. Like Americans died that day. Real
Dude,
Americans, pictures and all. We still don't even know for sure. Like Biden had to make sure that like he had a couple good wins out the door, like the ceasefire, and like saying, "Oh, Trump didn't do nothing. That was all me." The reporter asked him, "Oh, did Trump help?" He goes, "Is that a joke?" And then walks off. Almost forgot where to walk, but
right, like
literally,
that's why, like if that was him, he would have been like, "Oh yeah, I placed a call over here, did this, did that." No, that wasn't him, bro. He don't know how that happened. He's just like, "Oh
no.
yeah, I got an email this morning. There was a ceasefire. Hell yeah."
You got government officials coming out and they're like, "Yeah, like we wouldn't have been able to get this done without Trump." And just him being like, if you don't release the hostages, hell will rain down on you. Has Biden ever said anything like that?
No,
He
dude,
don't have the
and
balls.
that's a whole other thing that I'm surprised has not been a bigger talking point in the whole campaign and everything, bro. But like, as much as people like to be like, "Oh, being friends with a dictator is not a flex or whatever, bro. It's not
Oh,
being
I
friends.
remember
It's
that
not
one.
being, yeah, it's not being friends, bro. It's the fact that we have enough communication with them for them to know that they don't want to fuck around and find out. I
Yeah.
mean, pretty much. But with Biden, there was none of that communication. They were like, oh, Trump's out of there. We can do whatever we want. They ain't going to say nothing to us. No, that didn't last very long.
No. And I mean, even just, I mean, showing the negligence of when we're, coming back to Democrat ran states, just these wildfires. I mean, you have some points on the wildfires here, but just a neglect. I mean, just Trump. I mean, there's videos going around of Trump talking about back in 2018, 2019, talking about a fire back then and how Finland is this nation of forest. It's a nation of forests, right? And how
Right.
they have the guidelines in place to minimize the impact of wildfires, and all this money that's given from the taxpayers to the government, and then also federal money to turn around and not do anything with it. You have all this money for the homelessness problem, and your homelessness problem is worse it's ever been. But
bro.
when China comes to town, you clean it up. You clean it up real nice and neat for them. You kick everybody out.
And it just doesn't make it, dude. The homeless thing in general doesn't make that much sense, bro. Because and the thing that really kills me about it is the people that complain about it the most are the people with real big bank accounts that could actually potentially make some kind of change in that area, and they just don't.
It's just really tough, especially for the people that live there, because they just know that it was something that could have been prevented, and not like completely prevented, because Mother Nature's gone Mother Nature, but like it's just the clear negligence of this administration in California. Um, Go ahead and rattle off some points you got. I know you did some digging on this topic.
Yeah, the wildfires. I mean, they definitely. I mean, of course, everybody's going to say now they could have been prevented, but I mean, they could have been. The California literally, I mean, at one point paid a Japanese company millions of dollars to come in, assess their forests, and give them a perfect plan of how they could clean it up, prevent fires from happening, all of that. And they basically put none of their policies into place. That's one right there, just a huge waste of money. But as of today, the fire department in California posted a video, and the chief said that the winds are still pushing the fire. It's going further and further through Los Angeles, and the death tolls continues to rise. And at this point, I mean, there's no clear end in sight, but they said that as of right now, they have the Palisades is 52% contained, which, I mean, those percentages are not very good. And the Eaton County incident, they're 81% contained as of yesterday. So, I mean, those numbers are not very good. That means there's still a lot of fire doing whatever it pleases and just tearing through California. Um, Also, in the midst of this, one of the largest battery storage plants that we have in the United States caught on fire and just south of San Francisco, the Vista Energy battery plant. So that's definitely not good, especially with all the EV stuff they were trying to push and everything. That's a lot of batteries gone. And
Yeah, I mean, especially with like all like California itself wanting to push that so hard, and kind of makes you think like maybe it kind of flushes out the conspiracy that it was planned specifically by California, because it's kind of like anti their agenda.
right,
Um, and we're not in that camp. We don't think it was planned, or and even if it was, someone it was probably some jackass with a flamethrower, or someone with a little bit of a lighter, a match or something that would have kicked it off, or even just
right.
power
Anything.
lines or anything. Yeah, especially with the winds.
Lightning in the woods, anything.
Yeah, yeah, and there's really, I mean, they can do investigations, but it's really hard to pinpoint the beginning of it to a certain thing. And I think the biggest thing too is it just kind of shows like the ineptitude of our agencies when it comes to like relief, and like having those, like when you look at like what happened in North Carolina and all these places that got hit by the hurricane, like just the being able to like give help from the federal government, like it was impossible, and like coming out giving them $700, and not even getting approved for that, and it was a joke. It was a joke that we send all these millions and billions to all these other countries, and we can't even help our own Americans. There's Americans who are helping Americans more than the government's helping Americans, and
Right.
that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, it's insane though.
Yeah,
That's
and
really, yeah.
when I say beautiful, I mean 100%. Like just neighbors, man. That's what we are. We're, we love our neighbors, and our neighbors could be our family, could be our best friends. Like if we're down, it could be on my neighbor who I've never talked to, man. But if he needs something, like I'm gonna be human. I'm gonna help him out. Like that's what we do. At the end of the day,
Right.
we're all Americans. We're all in the same fight. We're all in the same bullshit hamster wheel. that's called inflation, and we're battling that stuff, especially when it comes to natural disasters, which no one has control over. You have, people shutting down, like millionaires coming in with their own helicopter, their own fuel, taking these people off the homes, and you're yelling at them, "Nah, you can't do that." And it's like, this is my helicopter, my fuel. Me and my son are going to go pick up these people off their roof and bring them to safety, and you're going to tell me no, and you're not going to help them? It's just really messed up, man. And I think it just kind of shows just how terrible the handling of that was. I mean, we can go as far back as Ohio and the train derailment. We can go as far back as the Hawaii wildfires. It's just over and over and over again, man. You have these natural disasters, and then it just gets rolled over, and it's like, And I think now, with the really messed up part is the fact that all these millionaires and billionaires are getting affected. You're really going to see some change. Whereas, like, these North Carolina people, these Ohio people really can't do much. They don't have much of a platform other than the news media that interviews them, or their little channel or page that they have on X or Facebook or whatever. And I think that's a big thing too, is, hopefully now that'll change. We can make sure that these agencies are equipped to handle these kind of emergencies. Cause it's just terrible, man. Like, these are Americans, and, it goes back to even just Americans going from, like, veterans to can't even get help and relief to natural disaster people can't. Like, it's just terrible, man. We're not taking care of our own people. We're putting migrants up in 5-star hotels and paying for their food with food stamps and all this other stuff, getting them new phones and all this junk. The big story before these wildfires was the drones. That was a big story. I know the big thing is, like, the transparency was not there. Like, oh, it's not us, but we don't know who it is. Why aren't you shooting it down? If you're not shooting it
It's
down, that means
dude, it's so weird. Nobody pretty much ever claiming to have any idea what they were, and now it's all pretty much getting swept under the rug. I mean, it's pretty much got to be. We have to know. If we don't know, then we would have been shooting them down.
Yeah. And that was a big thing that Trump committed to, is releasing a report on the drones day one. The big thing he says is that he criticized the previous administration for not being transparent about what's been happening with these drones, emphasizing his intention to provide clarity to the public one day into the administration or shortly thereafter. And it's just like, the first 100 days are going to be crazy, and I mean, we're going to be here to report on it. But one of the big thing is too is just like, is it China? Is it Iran? Like, that's a national security threat. Is it our own stuff? I think it's more other country related. I think China kind of having their way with us, knowing Biden is Biden, just like the weather balloons a couple years ago, or the ones they were shooting down that flew from across the whole country, and it was shown,
Yeah, it was the
proven to be
balloons.
China. And they obviously felt like that was okay.
Agree that they were not aliens. You don't know? I don't know.
Look. All I know is there are some reports of them coming out of the ocean. There's a lot of other things that come out of
Yeah,
the
bro,
ocean.
like what is that?
I don't know about
Like
this whole
what?
declassifying. I'm sure we're going to have some stuff to talk about in the coming months with these hearings and everything, because, they're just wanting to tell us everything now. But everything they
Dude,
tell us
it's
about this
liable to get
stuff,
crazy.
well, the stuff that they're telling us, right? All these UFO people are coming out and, like, testifying in Congress, shit like that. All the stuff, they were approved by the Pentagon to talk about. There's stuff that they
Right,
weren't
so like what
approved.
does that mean?
They're giving us a little bit, just a little bit, just to itch that little bit of dopamine that we need. But it's
It
crazy
just makes you
because
think, bro.
when we were kids, early 2000s, like, it was a conspiracy theory to believe there was
Oh,
aliens.
that was straight tinfoil hat,
You
bro.
were straight Looney Tin up in there, because when you look back at it now, it's like and that was always the argument for me and if you know anything about the universe, it's impossible for there not to be some kind of other intelligent species. Whether they're less intelligent or way more intelligent than us, it's inevitable. Um,
100%.
So I mean, I'm sure we'll touch base on that in future podcasts. But I mean, just in the last couple months, between the drones, the wildfires, um, all the different stuff, and now we're shifting into the technology sector. You have SpaceX, the exploding craft, and man, I tell you, all this stuff that's happening in the sky. If you've seen that movie, Don't Look Up, um, it just even when you've
The
seen the
bro,
videos,
the
yeah,
drones. That's the most perfect example of that. That's why, like, you don't want to be that guy, but like, silly stuff like that happens, and that would not get nationally covered like it did. That was blasted everywhere. That had people in every state across the country looking up for flashing lights, bro. Everybody was posting videos of
yep,
planes, like, oh my God, it's a UFO. Like, dude, for
yeah. It's like
what?
they've never seen a plane in their life.
Like, literally, bro, that whole drone shit could have 700% been us. And they were literally just trying to see.
Yeah,
They were like, let's fuck around and see if we can get the world in an uproar, the United States in an uproar over this silly shit and have everybody looking up. After we just made a video about this shit, we just made a movie, and then they did it,
yeah.
and everybody fucking did it like
And I think
clockwork.
that's the reality of if it is us, it was a psyop. It was 100% a psyop to see how we'd react, how would they cover it, how what theories would come out from it, and that's what you leave it open to. That's what you leave it up when you're not transparent with the people. That's when
Exactly.
conspiracies come out. That's when shit
And
gets
it's
crazy.
so yeah, because it's so weird, bro. It's pretty much you got two completely different sides. It's like, you're crazy if you think it's gonna play out exactly like that movie, but then you got the side where it's like it's crazy if you think they won't play this shit out exactly like that movie.
Going into the SpaceX explosion that just happened a couple of days ago. There's a video and they're recording the explosion, and I had seen the video before I heard about anything what happened, and I'm like, what is that? Is that like a new Northern Light? Like, what is that? And this woman's in the back. She's like, what's going on? What is that? Oh my god! And she's thinking we're about to die, and
Right. I
all it
mean,
was
shit,
was a
what would you
rocket.
think?
Well, what everybody does, they whip out that phone because they got to get footage of that.
Oh, for sure.
If a
I'd be like,
meteor hits us, everybody gonna have that phone out.
bro,
They
if
gotta
I'm
go
seeing that
live.
explosion, yeah, I'm like, the bros ain't gonna believe me if I don't take a video of this
Swear,
shit.
I'm FaceTiming my mom real quick.
Bro, you gotta see this. Come
But
on,
yeah,
mama.
I think the SpaceX explosion. I think it's just space technology trying to advance. Like that's you have these things happen. You kind of figure out what's going on before you put human lives in there. You got to get through all these little things. So
Bro, yeah, I mean, they're just like you said, it's advancing, and I mean, I'm not gonna say they're doing it too fast because who am I to say that? But at the same time, the advances that they've made just in the last 10 years have been insane.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean,
And I mean, even in the inauguration tonight, talking about putting humans on Mars, like I'm on the camp where I think we're a little farther than 4 years away. Um,
dude,
but
dude,
you're not gonna break off.
definitely, definitely a bit further for sure,
Yeah. In other news, Trump dropped a meme coin.
dude,
So I'll let you talk on that because I got my own
dude.
point of view. Just because I
I
know you're
mean,
not like super involved in crypto, so just I want you to hear how you feel about a president dropping a meme coin in specific.
bro. I mean,
One
I'm for them,
one one that gained $70 billion in fully diluted valuation, and that's more than FedEx, CVS, and Target.
bro. I'm for the meme coins, bro. The meme coins is what makes middle class millionaires. So I'm for the meme coins. And I mean, a president doing it isn't crazy, but Trump doing it is like that's like the most Trump thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
He's such a great marketer, bro. Like he
Yeah,
knew exactly what would happen if that if he dropped a coin.
Yeah, and the big thing is too is like you have all these analysis and all these um, financial gurus, and they're like, "Oh, these people are stupid. You buy this, you're stupid. You're a degenerate. You need to dial that number." And if you're playing in meme coins, it ain't nothing fundamental about that. You're gambling.
No,
You're
that's
trying to make money, and you know what you're getting into.
and
Um,
playing messing with meme coins is exactly the same as calling your bookie
yeah,
and betting
yeah.
on the spread.
The
It's the
15 leg
exact same
touchdown
thing.
parlay.
100%. Don't be putting nothing on a meme coin you ain't willing to lose. And if they don't know that, that's on them. It's not the stock market.
And I think this is the new era we're coming into, and I think it's something we've kind of warmed up to with college players. It's the image and likeness. Like, how can you market your image and likeness? And I think it's more than just
100%.
NCAA football or sports in general. I think it's something where big iconic people can tokenize their popularity. And if it's like, oh, I think this person's going to be the next big thing, I can go ahead and I can purchase something that's related to their uprising, right? And there's also the downside of that. It's like imagine buying a coin, a meme coin that was dropped by Michael Jordan, right? And like when he came in, nobody thought he was going to be the GOAT.
Right.
They had, ideas. And same with like speaking about another MJ, if the Jackson 5 came out with a coin, you would have never known that Michael Jackson, the lead singer, would have been one of the biggest icons of all time.
Brother, I mean, you can relate this back to, it goes back to as simple as, what was it, like around 2010, maybe even before that? Big artists, athletes started accepting Bitcoin as partial payment.
That was key.
Dude,
That was
and they
key in the
became,
market.
yeah, that made them millions, bro. Like, I'm pretty sure Shaq's one of them. He got it for some endorsement or something like that, forgot he had it,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
remembered, and it was millions.
They, and when you have these articles, like there was an offensive lineman for the Panthers that did it, and everybody just shit on him. They were like, "Oh, this is terrible financial advice," and he even reflected on it, where he was like, "Every my family members, everybody was telling me I'm dumb, and now look at me, now look at me. My whole contract's worth double, three times what it was when they signed me," and that's something where it's like, you shouldn't you pe- people shouldn't be shamed for taking their own financial like ideas and like acting on them. Like, we not everybody needs a financial advisor. Are they good? Should you have one in
No,
some
bro.
areas? Sure, but you should be able to take your finances in your own hands. And I think that's what decentralized finance, and that's what decentralization, that's what the crypto market brings. And it's slow. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be within 5 years. It's going to take a decade or two. The big thing I think with these meme coins, because he even dropped, Melania dropped a coin, and the reason I think they did this is Trump is going to have a lot of stuff that he's going to do, and there's a chance that if he does everything he's supposed to, he can become the greatest president we've ever had. And what does that look like? What does that Trump coin look like in 4 years if he acts out on everything he's told to? Um, and with Melania, she does a lot of
Yeah,
stuff
bro.
too.
Just think. Yeah, bro. And just like think about that. Like, people are going to be able to make profit when the president does good things. How
Yeah,
crazy is that?
yeah. And same with Melania. Like, she's very involved as a first lady. She was the first time around, and I'm sure she's going to be even more involved this go around. Now the funny thing is you've seen a lot of people FOMO out of the Trump coin and into the Melania coin, and the Trump coin crashed a little bit, not crazy, but um, you kind of see like the people like, look, if you're looking for fundamentals and good investments, it's in the crypto market for sure, and we'll touch base in the future as we get more and more into the technology side of things. Um, but at the end of the day, it's meme coins. It's meme coins, and it is what it is, and you know what you're getting yourself into. If you can't handle the heat, don't go in the kitchen. You know the saying. And what I mean for the crypto market, I think it does kind of kick off like, it gets people talking about crypto. It gets people talking about Bitcoin, and it didn't crash Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still sitting over 100K, and as long as it's above 90K, I think it's sitting pretty. So I think this is going to be a big year to just kind of, if you're looking at investments and you're looking at different vehicles, this is the year, because like in the last 4 years, um, starting at the beginning of Biden's administration, there was a big downturn in all markets, and then there was a comeback up. And we'll have to see, and we'll discuss more. But now's kind of the time, because as Bitcoin's been making its craze, a lot of these altcoins haven't even had a chance to kind of reap the benefits of the market. I don't want to get too deep into it, but in altcoins, basically everything that's not Bitcoin. And I think there's a lot of good technology in that market, and I think we're still very, very early. That's why it's so volatile. And we're gonna see some cool stuff going forward. But yeah, guys, I mean, that was basically all the stuff we're gonna cover today. It was kind of thrown together very last second, but it is the first official No Jerry pod. People probably wonder what No Jerry is. We'll touch base on that in the future, and maybe make some references. I think Joe Biden's probably the biggest Jerry of them all. But I want to thank you guys for coming in, tuning in, and then we'll be back next Monday night.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
thank you guys.